There we go. Well, welcome everybody to our session tonight, Cobblestone Collective, and we are going to look at accessibility and differentiation for all learners. And we're going to focus on Windows 10 tonight, and that is just one great big place where you find trick after trick after trick, and we're going to learn so many new things tonight. My name is Cami, and I'm coming to you from Medicine Hat, Alberta. Out here, I'm an instructional coach and teacher. With the school district, and I also am a contract worker for Cobblestone Collective, as Damien is, and we love to lead some evening and afternoon and learning at all different times of the day. So Damien is absolutely our Windows Microsoft expert tonight, so we're going to just turn it over to you, Damien, and you can take it away for us.
Amazing. Thank you for the warm introduction, Cami. And yeah, today we're going to be learning all about Windows 10 and accessibility found within Windows 10. So I'm very excited to share that out with all of you. It's definitely going to be a very packed and loaded session. There's a lot of little things to kind of follow along and potentially remember. So with that being said, if you'd like a little bit of more a visual guide as you're running along with us or maybe alongside us, the link on the page or on the beginning of the screen here, it will take you to the slide deck that we are currently working off of. So you can get a bit more of a visual cue, or again, as we encourage you to walk along with us throughout our session, then you are able to leverage that PowerPoint presentation deck at any point. So thank you so much for checking that out.
And Damien, I'm going to jump in here. I just forgot to mention that my job will be over in the chat. And so if you have questions tonight during our time together, you just put those in the chat and I will either answer them there, or if we need Damien to show us something again or do a little redo, we'll jump in and get him to do that. So that'll be my role here. I'm just going to I'll keep popping that link in to our slides because Damien has an incredible step-by-step slide deck for us tonight as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Absolutely. If there's anything that we need to revisit or try out, then let Cami know, and Cami will just jump in and let me know. So as a brief reminder, the workshop is recorded. So if you would like to ever pause, replay, take a look at this recording at any point, maybe there's something that you remember and you wanted to look at that again, then you're more than welcome to be able to return to this, and it is provided for you. I am Damien, that's my name. I do live in Mississauga, Ontario, over on Treaty 13A, and I do, similar to Cami, a lot of contract work with Cobblestone. We do a lot of great things, and I love being able to train out students and teachers and all the great things, particularly more on the Microsoft side, as I'm not yet too well versed on the other ones, but I'm super happy to be here, and I look forward to guiding you all on this journey. And before we kind of move forward, I do just want to take a moment to acknowledge the lands that we are on and that I'm specifically presenting on as well. I'd like to acknowledge those that were before me, and that I'm here settled on their lands over in the Treaty 13A. And what I like to share with everybody generally is, I'm found on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit. And a large part of this land was actually within a territory that was known as the Dish with One Spoon. And so that was a territory that bound people to share and protect the land, and to do so in a peaceful manner. So the dish was representing that land to be shared peacefully, and the spoon was representing the individuals living on it. And so they could use resources and the land in some cooperation. And I really like that kind of teaching because I think it can be very applicable in our modern day society, and with a few struggles and challenges that we are facing globally. So I do like to share that just because I think it is a very critical piece of our history and culture. If you'd like to learn more, I do highly recommend to visit native-land.ca. It is a phenomenal resource, and it can help with all of you to learn from where you're from. Thank you to Cobblestone Collective for providing us with this opportunity to showcase and demonstrate all of this great stuff for you. So it is a phenomenal company. I'm so happy to be working with them, and I'm happy to be here to present all of this. And on the topic of thanking, I would like to also thank Microsoft Education Canada for supporting this session specifically and allowing us to be here and give this out for all of you as well. So I'm very fortunate and thankful that we're able to do this for all of you. And last slide before we kind of dive right in here, it's just a general layout for our session, for our 1 hour that we're going to spend together today. So we'll just do when I say Windows 10 layout, it's just a very brief, here are some buttons we're going to need to know for today. But otherwise, we'll dive right in. We'll tackle some great features. We'll explore and navigate the ease of access menu, hopefully get into some Microsoft Edge, just because that's a very big pairing now with Windows 10. If you don't use Edge, that's okay, but there's some really great stuff in there that I'd like to share. And lastly, we'll tackle how you can get certified for the workshop that is presented for you. So with that being said, I think we can dive right in. I will exit out of this PowerPoint, and then we're on Windows. So I changed actually the background so we can get a little bit of a nostalgic, fresh out of the box experience. And we can dive right in. Now, a brief Windows 10, if we're not too familiar, or we've come from Windows 7. I know that expired 2 years ago, but essentially with Windows 10, we do have the start menu in the bottom left corner. So that is kind of a fundamental piece, and it has changed the way that Windows looks like. So before, in older Windows operating systems, you would click and it would pop up something like this, which was just kind of a straight menu. But now you have your live tiles, you've got your apps over here as well. So that's a bit of a change. As a reminder, if some things aren't working for you by clicking the start menu, maybe hitting the settings or clicking one of these, you can always use the search bar as well to quickly search something up. And I'll demonstrate that multiple times throughout the session, so I won't do that right now. If you don't see this search bar, all you need to do is right-click on a free space of your taskbar. So that means somewhere where I'm not highlighting over an app right now. And I'm going to right-click, and then I can go to search, and then show search box. So if you're not seeing the search box there, that is how you can toggle it. I love having it there. It is such a time saver, and it makes everything easier. So I guess that's kind of my first tip. But we have that. And lastly, there is the Action Center, which is on the bottom right. We're not going to dive too much into here, but there are a couple things that we can dive into from this menu. So that is where you can also manage some notifications that are happening and some quick settings here as well. Also, this is another place that you can access your settings, but we'll get that in just a second. Cool. So I think with that being said, we can dive right in. I see no reason to hold back any longer. So the first thing you will likely notice with Windows when you do set it up out of the box, or if you've been using it this whole time, is that it is a pretty light operating system. And by light, I mean that the colors are very bright. There's a lot of blue. There's a lot of white. For someone like me, I tend to prefer to go the darker route. I like to be able to have a bit of a refresh view, or if you're working late at night, this tends to be very bright. So the first thing I'm going to showcase is dark mode. We've heard of dark mode, hopefully, potentially, on apps, right? We can specifically change apps to be in a dark mode setting, but we can actually do that for the entire Windows 10 operating system. So we're going to start by navigating from the start menu. So we're going to navigate a couple different ways to get there. The first thing is we're going to click Start in the bottom left, and you will see a power icon right above, and we're just going to go to the settings right above that. So by clicking Settings, this should pop up over here. So you have kind of this, I guess 12, right? 5, 10, 13 different settings here that will break down furthermore into your system. And at the very top, we have a Find a Setting. So if I don't actually know where dark mode is, right? Like maybe it's in devices or system or anything like that, I can actually just search. So I'm going to find a setting, and I'm going to look dark mode. And I just typed in dark, and it already showed up a few different options for me. And I think this first one is what I'm looking for. So turn on dark mode system-wide. So I'm going to select that. It's going to take me to that exact location of the settings area. And right here, I can choose my color. So I can choose the light or the dark. So when I select dark, we'll just give it a moment. And in a couple of seconds, the entire system is a dark mode. So the background still stays as the background, but now we may notice that the taskbar is at a darker shade. Maybe if I go back to settings, this is all a little bit darker now. And I can also change a little bit more. I can customize a bit more. So I can actually choose an accent color on top of the dark mode. So it selected, I guess, this what they call a storm, but a darker kind of color or font, right? For the font, I can maybe change it to like a red, right? So it'll take a moment. I clicked it. It's going to slow down, and now I have these red fonts for all of my different, I guess, words or sentences and menus. So you're able to really kind of choose different color schemes and be able to adapt like that. So that is kind of the first thing I want to showcase, that you can customize exactly how you want. You can even create a custom setting here. So, you know, if we want to ensure the transparency effects, and that's just with apps seeing through, you're able to customize a little bit like that. I'm going to switch it back to light mode for the duration of the presentation. But if dark mode looked a little bit better or it was easier to see, let Cami know. Cami will let me know, and I can switch it right back. That's not a problem. Because I know sometimes what's easier for me, it doesn't necessarily translate as well over a recording or over an online meeting. So let us know. And yeah.
David, I was just going to pop in, and it's really interesting with our students how many really prefer that. Like some like to just play with it because it's different, but there are lots of students who really do benefit from that dark mode. So I think sometimes as teachers, we want to say, quit playing with the settings. But for some kids, it does really make a difference. The glare, all those kinds of things. So that's
Absolutely.
a good one.
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. Thanks for popping that in, Cami. Okay, so on to the next one. What we're going to talk about now is text suggestions. So I'm going to open up actually Notepad right now, and I'm just going to demonstrate what it would look like if I started typing something. So let's just say Windows 10 accessibility is today's topic. Right? Nothing too out of the ordinary, right? I just typed it out, and it ended up being fine. Let's just increase the font here, so it might be a little bit easier to see. Now, what we want to do is we want to have potentially some text suggestions for us. And the way that we can do that is, again, through the settings. Actually, we're not going to exit that. But instead of navigating from the start menu to the settings and then searching, we're just going to search immediately from this bar right here. So we're going to save a couple steps and showcase how we can do that right from here. So if you're following along, you can definitely do exactly what I'm doing. And I'm just going to type in text. And I see, I didn't even type in suggestions. I just typed in text, and it is showing me the best match for multilingual text suggestions. This might be a little bit different for somebody following at home, but the best match at the top, it might have a different name. It will likely lead you to the same area. So when I click on that, it leads me to typing, right? And so I'm under devices, and I'm under a specific typing a submenu or subpart. And this is where we can customize a lot of things. So within an application, it can autocorrect misspelled words. This is a little bit, I feel, tricky, just because right here under typing, it says show text suggestions as I type on the software keyboard and add a space. And it's already turned on. But when I was typing, that text suggestion wasn't happening. So the key word here was software keyboard, right? And I wasn't typing on a software keyboard. I was actually typing on the keyboard of the computer, which means I have to scroll down to hardware keyboard and then toggle that on. right? And if I want to, I can toggle autocorrect misspell words as well. But the key change is I have to go onto hardware keyboard. So now let's type this exact same sentence back. And we are able to notice that I am getting now text suggestions above each word as I'm typing. So Windows 10, accessibility is today's topic. And just like that, we're now getting text suggestions above everything that we're typing, which is a very handy tool because I know that there are a lot of tools out there, right, that do offer word prediction, right? The one that comes top of mind, just because I literally researched it 2 days ago, was a Clicker 8, right? Like that's a potential example of software that's able to do that. But what's great to know is that Windows 10 does have a built-in version of this, so it's very nice to have that right in the convenient spot for our students and ourselves. So with that being said, we're gonna navigate or transfer a little bit to individuals who might have a touchscreen device. Okay, so I'm using a Surface laptop right now, so naturally I can use my finger to draw around, right? It has both. But what some students might prefer if they are using a more handheld device, or maybe they have one of those 2-in-1 Windows devices, right, where you can flip kind of like in a temp mode, or they have something that's a little bit more touch heavy, then we are able to turn on the touch keyboard. So we're able to see this actually already. I have it turned on right here. It's beside, if you don't have the English setting at the bottom over here, it would be right beside your calendar and your time. So almost to the bottom right, there's something called a touch keyboard. Now, similar to the search bar, it might not actually be there, right? If you're looking for that. So we, similar to the search bar, have to click anywhere on the taskbar. We're going to right click there. And it's actually going to be right here under Show Touch Keyboard button. And I'm going to toggle that off. We can see it disappeared from here. I'm going to toggle it on again, and it appeared right in between my Windows Ink workspace and the English. So I'm going to click on this touch keyboard, and now I have a touch keyboard built right on, right? So this is phenomenal. Let's actually open up Notepad again. And now if I open up that, I can go ahead and be Windows 10. And notice that I am still getting prediction at the top as well. So I'm still getting that text prediction. So if I'm not using a hardware keyboard anymore, this is that software keyboard I was mentioning, right? Where the text predictions are popping up. That's the differentiation. So I'm going to say, again, Windows 10. Accessibility, and we've already typed this out, so I won't finish it. But that's a really nice feature that we have going on here. Now, what's really neat is there is this setting over here, this keyboard with a gear icon. And when I select that, we can actually change the way that this keyboard physically looks like. So for example, I can have it as a small keyboard like that. I can change it to have it actually on two sides of the screen, right? Depending on how I'd like to position or posture the way I type. Another example is just we have a few more functions here. So we have like the delete. So this is more of a generic keyboard that we actually have, physically. And there's even a little emoji icon if your students like to express themselves a little bit differently or a bit informally. And lastly, again, because we're on the topic of touchscreen, there's even a keyboard that we can write out with a pen. So I'm just going to see, does this pen? Okay, I just got a pen right now. Pardon my penmanship, but I can begin writing it out over here. And notice how I'm going to cross that off and delete it. Notice how my penmanship stays as I write. Okay, that was just terrible. But my penmanship stays as I write everything out until I'm finished the word, and then it will autocorrect to the word itself, right? And now what I can do is there are actually some editing tips with that. So if I crossed it out, if I did like a strike through, it would delete it. That is the action of deleting it. If I wanted to split this word up with micro and soft, I can, okay, so I didn't do that right, but I can kind of dash in between. Let's wait for that. And I can try to split it up like that. So it's not liking what I'm doing. That's okay.
Damien, I'm curious, do you need an actual, there you go. Do you need an actual pen, like a touchscreen pen, or does it respond to a finger as well?
So in this scenario, I do need a pen.
Okay. Now I'm also noticing, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that could depend on your device, right? Because certain devices have a different setting when it comes to pen touch input versus finger. So it could be interchangeable.
Is that something we can change? Like mine isn't responding to a finger either. Is that a thing? I'm asking you those questions again, Damien. I shouldn't. Sorry.
No. And this is good because I'm just making sure I have it here.
Maybe under handwriting there. Oh, there it is.
There it is, right here. So I can write in the handwriting panel with my fingertip. So what I did to get there was in that same menu that I went to change all the keyboards, there's another gear icon. And when I click on that, it takes me to the pen and Windows Ink section. And one thing is that's actually I would recommend for any students is to ignore touch input when using pen. That's just basically if you do have a more natural tablet and you put your palm on the surface of the screen, your palm isn't mixing up and you know making that input a little bit wacky. But as we scroll down, we can write right here, toggle right in the handwriting panel with your fingertip. So hopefully that works. Let me know if that works. But I think that's the best solution I can see right here. And additionally, we can improve that recognition as well. So we can write out a practice phrase just so our handwriting gets better over time, and AI does a bit of a better job. Okay, cool. So moving on, and now we're just going to tackle a couple of neurodiversity, conversations. For one is I get super distracted when there are notifications popping in and I'm trying to work on something. And it's even almost to the point where I have two monitors, and if I have something open on the other monitor, that's almost distracting enough for me that I can't focus if I'm trying to read something. So on pivoting back to the topic of notifications, right? If there's things popping in, or if you have Teams open, or any tool or platform that's butts in notifications, one thing that we can do is have focus assist turned on. So in the action panel, which is at the bottom right, I open that up and I'm actually set to alarms only right now. If I click that off, that means focus assist is off. All the notifications can come through, and then I'll just always get interrupted by a little banner. I can click it so that there's a priority only, or click it once more so it's alarms only. And if we want a little bit more options, I can again type in my search bar what I'm looking for, in this case focus assist. I'm going to select that. And this is now some of the rules I can set of when I want focus assist to automatically happen, right? So maybe when I'm using it in full screen, I can even set it for a specific time as well. So I'm able to customize some of these things. All right, and the last thing that I want to touch on before we dive right into the ease of access menu is, again, some things might be a little bit distracting. For example, one of the biggest changes when Windows 10 first came out were the live tiles. So I opened up my start menu and I just have my calendar here and my weather. So the weather is shuffling on and off, right? I can see just continuous updates happening. Sometimes the calendar will do like a little double front flip or something. And if I'm opening that up, that can really change my eyes and dart it away there. So all I need to do is right click on it. I can go to more and then turn live tile off. And so now it's just a static tile, right? So I can turn that on again or turn it off, but I can go ahead and turn these live tiles on and off, the ones that are available to be turned on. So that's another way that we can essentially customize what is getting our priority attention and what might be actually distracting us or deviating us away from what is important.
And Damien, these are so important for our students, these focusing pieces. Students there's distractions all over the place. So if we can even teach them how to do this for their own use. I know I have a lot of students, and when they learn these focusing techniques on their device, they're using them at home, they're using them all the time. They know they're good for them, even though it's more fun to see the notifications. They even realize the importance of turning them off. So it's so important that we're able to help them find those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had stories as well where I've worked with students who are on the spectrum, and they really appreciated having minimal distractions as well. So there's a very large population of students that may or may not realize they want it or need it, and they just need to actually experience that or go through with it to know that that's beneficial for them. So awesome. Okay, so let's dive into ease of access. This is where the bulk of accessibility features in Windows is stored and contained. And the way we're going to navigate and access there is just like what we did with everything. We're going to go to settings. So in the bottom left-hand corner, we're going to click start, and we're going to click the settings gear icon. So we've returned back to our general, 13 menu system area. And ease of access is the title of this, section of this group of settings. So we're going to click on that. Now I'm just going to demonstrate how if I typed it in down here, I just have to type in ease, maybe of access, and it's showing me specific, specific keyboard settings and things like that. So I can click that, and it'll just take me. Oh, I don't know how that got there. It'll just take me to the keyboard section specifically. But when you get into ease of access, you will start generally into the display. So we're going to kind of work through these little subsections, right? And we can see that they're actually divided in three. So we have vision focused accessibility features, hearing focus, and also interaction or mobility focus. Okay, so we're just going to walk through, demonstrate what exactly is contained in all of them and what could be truly beneficial for yourself and your students. So under the display, we can right here have a slider scale that allows us to change the size of the text, right? So I know there are some great tools already that exist. We'll talk about it briefly if there's time today. Immersive Reader, where that does increase selected text inside of Microsoft applications, but not everything is always inside of those applications, right? If I brought up Notepad, for example, that has to do its own thing. So I can set the generic text to always be a little bit bigger if I want that. And then I just click apply once I am content with that and move on. One thing as well is that we can change the generic size of apps or the zoom in, right? So it's set at 150, and each computer will have a different percentage recommended. It honestly just depends on the screen size and the resolution of the device, but mine is at 150. So if I wanted to see a little bit closer, I can change it to 175, and just like that, we have it. Now, right in that moment, what happened was I think my night light kicked in. So I was going to turn that off. But I can have the generic text and the zoom in just standardly bigger, right? So I'm able to navigate and be able to change those on the spot as well. And we have our brightness over here if you're ever looking for it. Another easier place to access your brightness is in the Action Center, and it's right at the bottom here as well. So something that's a little bit easy. And then we have our animations as well. So navigating back a little bit to the neurodiversity conversation, if we want to minimize distractions, maybe we don't want to see all the animations in Windows and just have straight kind of load times and pop-ups and things like that.
And so Damien, I was going to say, as you're going through this section, one of the things that I'm struck by is, we do have students with specific vision issues, but do you know who really loves us to go in and help them on their computers with this section? it's our senior friends, our grandparents. And so if you ever want to be the favorite grandchild, go to your parents' computer. They likely have a Windows device. Take them into, or you don't even need to, just go into here and increase the vision contrast and the size, and you will be the favorite grandchild or the favorite daughter forever. So when I think of, you know, these accessibility features, they're not just good for youngers or for students. They do amazing things for those on the other end of the age spectrum as well. So
I like that you bring that up, because that's now we're touching on the topic of inclusive design, right? And that when we are designing these products, it's, yes, we are trying to tackle a specific, you know, group or specific, you know, disability potentially. But the beauty of these products is that it's not only now accessible to that target audience. If the whole audience and the whole kind of range of individuals can use it, that is a design well made, right? So I really like that you brought that up, Cami, because, you know, that's kind of the bread and butter that I, and the theme that I really like to kind of nail home. Okay, so moving down, we're going to talk about mouse pointers, or the cursor. And some of us may have been able to notice mine was a little bit bigger, and it's currently on an orange color, right? I've just gotten used to it because I always have to change it when I'm doing these presentations virtually and things like that. It's easier to follow along, and now I just always work with with the bigger mouse. But this is where you're able to do that. So you can, you know, use the slider scale to increase that mouse size. So again, that's pretty big. On the same conversation, if you want to show your grandparents, this is also a great place for them to find that. And you know, for our students as well. Now let's maybe put it 5 is good. And what's great is you know, generally you just have a standard pointer, right? When you start up and boot up Windows, you just have the standard white pointer. Now you can always change it to black. You can have it inverted, which means that where there is, you know, a white, it'll be black. Where there's a black, it'll be white. So it'll just invert the colors to make it legible wherever you kind of go. And lastly, you can choose this custom piece. So they do give you a few starter colors over here. Excuse me. You can, you know, change it to your liking, or worst case scenario, you can just click to pick a custom color, and any color you want on the color gradient is available for you. So, you know, you can go ahead. I try to do something a little bit more defined, but maybe this kind of blue, done. Oh, actually, that looks kind of weird. So I'll move it back. But that is where you're able to customize that color. And, you know, circling back, great personalization tool, and also great just in general accessibility tool to be able to help us navigate and track and see, right? Because this kind of goes back to students. Some students, they like to potentially, or they fixate on a specific color, right? So we change the theme, we print out specific pages for them. They can do the same thing with the cursor as well and kind of follow that along, which is super neat. Moving on, we're going to navigate down to the text cursor. So very similar to the mouse pointer, we can do the same thing. We can actually have these little bubbles on either end of our cursor just to help pinpoint where that cursor is. So sometimes it gets lost, right? If you navigate away or sort of reading something, you might forget where that blinking cursor is found. But this way, we're able to have these little bubbles. So if I turn that on, let's go back to Notepad. And right here, I can see it just like that. So I'm going to type in Windows 10 accessibility, and I can't lose that, right? Like that sticks out very nicely for me. I can, again, with the exact same selection, choose a different color if I so chose, or maybe I can just pick a custom color as well. And so actually this is pretty cool too. You can like select, if you didn't want to use the slider scale, you can just choose your own settings of RGB in here. So that's like a pretty nice touch as well. I haven't seen that before yet. So very similar. Again, that's what we can do. We can have those little bubbles on either end and never lose track of our cursor. All right, so Magnifier. This is a pretty old tool, but it's very important, right? And just because we are able to zoom in specifically on what we need, right? Or be able to magnify specific things. So you might notice that underneath each tool, there's always a little tip that will tell you what the shortcut of that tool is. So in this scenario, it is the Windows key and then the plus sign. So if I then clicked Windows key plus, it would turn on Magnifier immediately. I don't have to always navigate into settings, find the tool, and then turn it on. But Magnifier is, as we all know and love, we turn that on. And then now we're able to click that plus and minus like that as well. And then I can use my cursor to move around. It's not showcasing right now because I'm using two screens. But what also happens if you have a touchscreen device is if you're only using one monitor and you have a touchscreen device, it will show up in the corner a grid, and there will be a plus and minus. And so you can use with your finger on the side of the screen, almost like a slider scale, and how you want to move the screen like that with your finger. So again, like I can't demonstrate that right now. I just saw it briefly, so I know it exists, but that will pop up if you do have that option. So
And
a little note to add in there.
David, I'd like just to jump in for teachers and remind you that often on devices, students will like to play and poke in here. And so one of the biggest things that our students like to do is they like to come in here and change the magnification. And then the next student who uses the device, it's like all wonky. So for teachers, this is an important place to know about, because often when your students have made the computer difficult to use for the next user, if they're sharing devices, it's this magnifying piece that they've come in and played with. There's different things that they've done, different tricks along the way, but this is important to know that this is often where you can come to fix the issue with the device, because the students have been experimenting here, shall we say.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. One more thing on the magnifier before we move on is that there's
Damien,
a settings
were you
icon
that kid?
here. I was not actually. I know I might look like that kid,
You had
but
that evil laugh. I just thought you might have had like a little too much experience there.
I had the experience of I was the kid who had to deal with that, so I knew, yeah. But yeah, so there is this setting icon here as well, and when we click on that, we can actually increase the speed of that magnification, how fast it kind of darts up or how slow it will zoom in and out. And there is a voice as well that we can choose. So we have a couple different pre-installed voices there. So we're not going to go through every nitpicky setting, but there are more settings now that you can go ahead, so you can be able to choose where or how Magnifier follows your cursor, or exactly what kind of, is it a full screen or is it just through a specific lens as well. So color filters, again, another somewhat age tool, but equally as important. So really great, if we do have students or anybody who might have some sort of color blindness, then we are able to change the filter of our device. So turning it on, I currently have it in grayscale. We can specifically do the red, green, and then the blue, yellow. So there are a couple different ways that we can choose those color filters. Right, and then it has the color wheel as well to visualize exactly what colors are being leveraged and used there. So, a nice point here actually is Nightlight. I brought it on just because I mentioned it very briefly that it turned on. Nightlight is it's basically a little science in here. Is if you want to try to go to sleep at night a little bit easier, there's a natural chemical in your body called melatonin. And so the blue light that emits from our technological screens decreases that melatonin, thus making it harder to go to sleep. I'm not curing insomnia here. I'm just saying for some of us, it might be simply that. So Nightlight essentially eliminates some of that blue light emission and focuses on the red and green. So obviously by toggling that, it would change the effect of some of these color filters as well, just to be mindful of that.
Damien, I'm just going to jump in and let you know that we're at about the 20 minutes left mark.
Great, thanks. So with that being said, similar on that note, we have the high contrast. So high contrast, we turn that on. It's going to kind of do this big please wait. At this point, a little bit concerned about clicking that just because it takes a while. So we're going to have to sit through and wait for this. But this is what happens, right? So we're changing kind of the way that the entire operating system is leveraged. So notice it went to a dark mode, right? But then it highlights the different kind of ways that the different colors that it will change on the fonts and how we can navigate our Windows system using this. So high contrast is good. Be wary though, not every tool and website is designed with high contrast in mind, so it might be a little bit difficult sometimes, but this is a nice way to kind of have that all in one spot. I'm going to turn it off right now, so bear with me as the whole operating system kind of gets reset here, but then we're going to move over to Narrator. And Narrator is a great tool. They've done so many improvements over the years for Narrator. I'm pretty excited to showcase that. And one of the tools that we can see is that there's actually a guide now. So what that means is if someone who might, our students or anyone who might be visually impaired need to use Narrator or a screen reader in order to, walk through and read out what's there, there is a guide now. So when I turn it on, it'll actually go through it. And so I'm going to click on that.
Narrator dialog. OK. Button. Settings with Narrator heading. Quick start. Narrator guide. Button. View the complete Narrator guide online. What's new? Button. Get an overview of new and updated Narrator heading level 1. What's new in Narrator? Link. Go to Narrator home. Link. Go to pane. Settings window. Use exiting Narrator.
So I just have a bit of experience with Narrator because I was doing some one-on-one trainings with individuals. So generally use like the tab keys or the alt tab, alt escape. So that's how, if you ever open up Narrator and you don't know, or someone made a setting that your cursor gets, deactivated, right? And you can't use your cursor to exit it. Just know that tab is how you kind of cycle through Narrator. But what I want to show is that we have a guide for Narrator. So essentially what happens is if you're completely new to Narrator or you have someone or a student that needs to use it, it kind of comes with a tutorial, a built-in tutorial that will tell you exactly how you can leverage it and use it to the best capacity. So that's really new and really exciting for people that might have felt a little bit overwhelmed with Narrator, because I definitely did as well when we first we're trying to navigate that and work with that. And they added a ton of features. Like I can scroll a long time to kind of work through everything. So they've really made it customizable for the user and the individual to use that as well. So again, we're not going to kind of walk through everything, but just as a scenario, this is how it can work, right? So for example, when I mentioned if the cursor, you don't see the cursor Narrator's on, this might be toggled off, right? Show the Narrator cursor or anything like that. And then if we do have a Braille keyboard, we can download and install the actual Braille display as well. And you can use that, together to be able to navigate the computer as well, which is super cool. All right, so that was kind of the vision subsection, right? And we're gonna toggle over. That was kind of the biggest bulk of everything. The next few, there won't be too much. And then again, if we have some time, we'll navigate quickly over to Edge or leave some questions. But moving over to the auditory section, the audio, they added this new part for the audio. You can increase your device volume, but the main purpose of this setting was for mono audio. So if we or one of our students have an auditory, hearing disability, or just we can't hear out of one ear specifically, then turning on mono audio simply means that the sounds are coming at the exact same sounds are coming in both the left and right channels. So how maybe if you've experienced, we listen to a song and it might only have like drums and cymbals in the left earbud and then the guitar and stuff in the right to make it more immersive. Essentially, this just ensures that everything comes through the one channel. So we're able to turn on or off a mono audio as well. And then we have closed captions. So this closed caption area, I didn't understand it when I first looked at it, because I would toggle this. I made this look exactly how I wanted to, went onto YouTube, and nothing. It did not do anything. And that is because these closed captions, the way that you change, maybe the color, the transparency of it, it is specifically built for in Windows apps. So if you boot up a video in like the Films app or anything like that, that's where the closed captions come in. It's not it's not integrated with other things that you use or web browsers, things like that. It is dedicated for the in-house systems that would play a video. So that's kind of my warning, so that some of you might not fall into the same trap that I fell under, or the confusion when you first kind of set up closed captions as well. And now, yeah, like I said, auditory was a very quick session, and we're going to kind of start wrapping up with the interaction piece, or the mobility piece. So speech recognition is another very long existing tool and feature found inside Windows, right? And simply put, is that it allows us to control our computer using our voice. So we shouldn't be able to use any other limbs to be able to navigate that, or external tools. We should just be able to use our voice. It is different from dictation. So dictation, which is Windows H, is specifically the dictate within our Windows applications, right? And we can use that to get that accurate, change the settings within Word or PowerPoint or whatever we use it in. But speech recognition specifically allows us to control the functions of our PC, of our computer. So, for dictation, as an example, I need to already be in Word in order to start using dictation. Speech recognition allows me to open up a Word and then begin dictating as well. So that's how it kind of is able to work and open up those different pieces and navigation tools. I haven't honestly tried out speech recognition with my new earbuds. So I'm not going to do that right now, because I probably have to go through a calibration and it won't look good. But once you have that set up, then you're able to kind of work through that. The next part is the keyboard. So we can use an on-screen keyboard, which is slightly different than the virtual keyboard that we showed earlier. It just kind of allows us to have this navigated, or this movable keyboard anywhere we want, and then to be able to use or input things over there. Moving down, sticky keys. This is probably one of the earliest accessibility features I can remember. As a kid, I didn't understand what sticky keys was, and trying to play pinball, I would always open it up because I had to press shift all the time. But if you don't know what sticky keys is, it's basically when we talk about using codes, right? Like Windows H to open dictation, or Control-Alt-Delete, or something like that. Not everybody is able to do that. Not everybody has, the capabilities of being able to hold multiple buttons at once. So what sticky keys does is it allows you to do those commands by just simply tapping in a row the command that you want, right? So that's how we can essentially use that. When I turn it on, I do get a couple different options that I can select. So if I wanted to show it on the taskbar, I can turn it off when two keys are pressed at the same time. So depending again on how the individual is using sticky keys specifically, there are a few ways that we can again customize, right? And that's really the beauty of Windows 10, is that customizable piece, because not every learner is the same. Everyone has a different approach to things, and there's no wrong way to learn. So by being able to customize for the learner specifically, that's kind of where it shines for the individual. We have, toggle keys and filter keys as well. So, turning on toggle keys doesn't give us a actual drop-down menu. Filter keys will. So we get a couple extra, settings that we can navigate for. And then going down, we can change things like the print screen shortcut or things like that. So those are kind of the main things to point out underneath the keyboard, or if you never really knew where to find that. Lastly, or second to last, we have a mouse. So essentially, this mouse feature, it's if you have an external keypad, maybe for dexterity reasons, right? Not everybody can hold a mouse or the what we call ergonomic shape just doesn't work for some people, they can use a keypad and use that keypad to act as a mouse pointer instead. And this is where you would toggle that on or off. And lastly, I don't have an actual device, but if you had an eye control device, for example, like a Tobii 4C tracker, I think that's the most affordable one on the market, if I'm not mistaken, then essentially what you do is you'd have to plug it in, you'd have to download it and activate it. But once it is, a menu would come up where you turn it on and off, and then you can use your eyesight and your eyes in order to navigate using the computer. So in the slide deck I shared, there is a picture of what that, looks like when you have the keyboard up. And essentially you just use your eyes, you'd focus on one letter, and then it would like select, and you're able to navigate using your eyesight. It is super cool, and it honestly a life changer. I've seen so many lives change by implementing this directly in the OS. Okay, we have a few more minutes, so I'm just going to dive into Edge. I don't know why this opened up, but I'm just going to dive into Edge and be able to showcase some of the built-in features inside Microsoft Edge. And again, the reason I'm bringing up Edge is just because it is kind of the paired faction of Windows. So by being able to use that, I'm on a page right now, and there's something called Immersive Reader. And I'm sure you've seen or heard us use Immersive Reader all the time in all the different applications of Microsoft, but it's also built right into the web page. And so if we're on a web page that supports Immersive Reader, we can see that in the end of the URL bar. So where you would normally navigate to add your favorites or anything like that, then we have the Immersive Reader right beside it, or also F9, right? So if you just click F9, it would open it up. So when I click on that, then it eliminates all the distractions of the web page. It still puts in some of these photos as well, and I'm sure there's alt text within those. And now we have the complete text, so we can read aloud. We're able to change some of those text preferences, so using the slider scale to increase or decrease the size, automatic text spacing, and they've improved the Immersive Reader in Edge. It used to be kind of a bare bones version of Immersive Reader. Now it's got everything. So we can see with like the new fonts, or it was the new text spacing, we're able to do that. The themes, similar to our kind of like cursor or text spacing, right? We can change the theme of our actual page as well. For potentially our ESL or younger grades, we can add in syllables, and we can add in different parts of speech as well to highlight those nouns and adjectives. And if some of this isn't applicable, we can also show labels as well. It will display the labels on top of each highlighted word. And lastly, under reading preferences, we can do a line focus. So it will specifically focus on each line. I personally never realized how helpful this was until literally today. I was reading an article for school, and I couldn't focus without Immersive Reader. Like being able to black out the rest of the text and focus on what's in front of you line by line is such a powerful tool. We also have the picture dictionary. So, certain words that are applicable, you can have a little visual cue to that. And we can also translate the page as well. So with Immersive Reader kind of covered, I'm going to so this gets hidden occasionally, right? But if you see Immersive Reader, these other functions should pop up as well. What I did to get there is I just clicked once in the URL, and then I clicked out of it, and it kind of popped out these two things. So what this basically means is I can create a QR code specifically to this page and download it and share it out. So maybe if I wanted to make something easy accessible, or be able to share that in another way, some of our students might be using Seeing AI or a different app on their phone in order to scan that and navigate through. I can go to that webpage and create a QR code. And if I had connected a device to my account, I can also remotely send these pages between devices as well, which is another super cool feature. One more thing, is Immersive Reader is found on select web pages. It really depends on just how the company or the organization has prepared and built these web pages, but read aloud should always be available. And so in order to go to read aloud, you're going to go to the ellipsis in the top right corner, just underneath the X, and you're going to navigate down, and there's read aloud, or the short form to keyboard command would be Control-Shift-U. So when I click read aloud,
use Immersive Reader in Microsoft Edge. Microsoft Edge. Immersive Reader. Reader in Microsoft Edge simplifies a web page.
And it's able to read out everything on the web page for me. So a really nice and neat built-in tool that allows us to navigate it whatever online source that we are using. So with that being said, I know we are running short on time. I want to make sure we all have our evenings left for us. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Now, as we mentioned, you will get this code applicable for you. So by joining us today, you can use this code, sign up on the Microsoft Educator Center community, and essentially add these to your reservoir or to your collection of badges or certifications, anything that you might be using to skill up or for extra PD, you can keep track of that. So because you spent an hour with us today, by going to education.microsoft.com, I'll show that in just a second, we're able to pop in this code. And so what will happen is when I open up education.microsoft.com, this is what it comes up to. So this is essentially a global resource for all educators where you can get specific resources, you can get trainings and courses and learning paths and some great badges as well. But if you've never signed in, then basically all you're going to have is a sign in button in the top over there. So if you've never done this before and you have to create a new account, I would recommend making or using a personal account, just because if you are moving on or navigating to a different workplace or things like that, you don't want to be the one, or you don't want to just have all of your things left behind in an old login. So I would recommend signing in. No thanks. We're going to go ahead and just open it up. And once you have that code, we're going to select on that little icon over here, and we're just going to click Redeem Achievement Code. And just like that, we can type it in over here. And when we click Redeem, it will redeem onto our profile. And to view everything that we've done, we can go to My Profile, where there's also another place to redeem that same code. And we can essentially just look at all the badges or all the details that we've done. You can select one and share it on Twitter, LinkedIn, and view that certificate specifically. Or best yet is we can view the entire transcript. And so this transcript will show us and give us a level of all the tools that you've completed. It'll give you a description of it and how long it took for you to complete that as well. So, or the projected time to complete that. So you can print this off and showcase that, and this is kind of your proof as well for all of the upskilling that you do and all the recognition that you do deserve. So with that being said, there are some additional resources for you inside of that slide presentation. You can go to the Disability Answer Desk, and from there, if you have any concerns or you need some assistance on the accessibility side, then Microsoft has that resource built out for everybody. There is the specific accessibility support from Windows, and also a YouTube playlist of the Ability Summit of this year. So a really kind of great time where Microsoft gets together, showcases some new stuff coming out, and talks about the importance of accessibility in the workplace and in education. So we'd love if you can leave a feedback for us over at this link over here. That would be super phenomenal. Let us know how we're doing. And if you do have any further questions, do feel free to go to help@cobblestone.ca, send a little email, and generally you should receive a reply within 48 hours. But super happy to have all of you here, and thank you all for joining us today.
Excellent. And before you go, make sure that if you haven't taken a copy of Damien's great slideshow, he showed everything live, but he has screenshots that walk you through all of those things that you'll want to remember. So make sure you take a copy of that slideshow or the PowerPoint and you can review your learning at your own time. Thanks again for joining us.